Welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shyra.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self. Hello. So happy you're here to join us today.
When in doubt, sing it out. Don't ask me what the whole like spirit finger thing is that I do sometimes. I don't actually know. I don't know.
Just, getting rid of some of that energy, letting it flow.
I know, right? Just through the fingers, spirit fingers. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I'm in a great mood today. How about you?
It's definitely been better since we've been talking. I do this practice when we record episodes. I walk into my office. First thing I do is light a candle, and as there's 3 wicks in my candle, and I usually try to find candles that have more than 1 wick to it. And as I'm lighting it, I set the intention that I'm opening myself up for communication, right? So like I'm allowing more information to come in so that way I can deliver while conversating with you and for, anyone listening, whatever, right? And so today seems to be a bit more potent than normal.
You got some chatty Cathy's over your shoulder.
Patty Cathy's up in here. So which is cool because, we got some really cool information before we hit record, sorry. And one of those pieces of information that we got, so typically if I try to just to kind of backtrack a little bit, typically when I'm bringing in information from my guides, if I'm by myself, I'll either record myself or I'll write it down, and I just write a word at a time, like what, sometimes it can come in like full sentences and I understand it and all that stuff. But when I'm kind of in a maybe hyper state, like I am today, then I'll just do one word at a time. And I don't try to form the sentence. And so it's helpful because Carrie will write the words down as I'm saying them. And then I'm like, okay, what did I just say? Because I don't know. So what did I say today, Carrie?
Well, we got a list of words and then ended with describe transformation and going within, developing peace, discovering humility, embracing true power, and distinguishing between the difference of self-worth, self-value, and removing value of self, determining justifications of limitations. So some of that, I think we are still trying to dissect. That was the word.
Yeah.
But I think one of the words that really spoke to us the most was humility. And we ended up pulling up the definition of humility because we get how it's used, right? Humility can be similar to being humble,
Right.
but wanted to just read the definitions. 2 of the definitions that come up. The first one is the state or quality of being humble, lowliness of mind or modesty. The second definition is low, lowly, modest, unpretentious, and having a low opinion of oneself. Now, we disagree with this a little bit because these sound really negative, but humility is not. It's just recognizing that we are not more or less important than anyone else.
Boom. I mean,
That's it.
yeah, that's beautiful. I mean,
It's
I love that.
recognizing that you have value. I have value. We all have value. We all have strengths. We all have limitations. And no one person is more or less valued than any other person.
Yeah, I like that because then you realize how equal we all really are,
Mhm.
even though we're having our own individual personal experiences for our own personal growths, whether, it's physical growth or soul growth or whatever you want to look at it, right? We're
Mhm.
we're all still experiencing experiences. And if
Mhm.
and if you look at it from that perspective, then we're all equal in that.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's beautiful.
And I think what really brought this forward was being able to find and found yourself, found strength and There we go. Ground yourself in a state of humility when you're also sharing information that you've learned, when you are trying to, like, if you learn a new practice and you're like, yeah, this is the greatest. And I know that this will really help lift somebody else up if I just share this with them. And you know what? That's great. I think that's beautiful. And it's really important to share with each other. But sometimes we run into in a situation where that person isn't ready to maybe receive. And so practicing that humility of being there when they're ready, or offering it and recognizing the resistance and saying, okay, that's them. They're not ready for it. I will be here and I'm ready to share with you when you're ready to receive.
Right. Yeah. And, I'm thinking about all of this, like as you're saying it, I'm still very open and they're being very chatty. So I'm just going to bring it through.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm getting thoughts of like when we're sharing, uh, like for instance, the fact that we do this podcast, right? We're sharing a lot of
Hmm.
information, we're sharing a lot of how
Hmm.
to's, all the things, right? But we are not in any sort of attempt to shove it down somebody else's throat. It's up to that individual to A, stumble upon it at the time they're supposed to, or need to, and B, decide to play through this entire episode or any of our previous episodes to receive the information. And even if,
Hmm.
those that are listening, maybe they're just listening and they're not receiving, right? It's up to them and when they decide to do that. So
Hmm.
that's in its own form of digesting at one's own pace. Um, and
Yeah.
there's
The more, sorry, keep going.
That's okay. All good, all good. Um, and when we go into because we get excited, right? Like a lot of people
Yeah.
when they a lot of people when they're discovering some of these things, they get excited regardless of what it is that you're discovering. It doesn't have to be about spirituality or whatever, but like, and then they want to share. And typically you'll go to like somebody that you care about or loved ones or friends, family, whatever, and you'll just be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to share all this stuff with you. You're going to be so amazed." And your level of excitement may not match their level of excitement when you're like they may not be ready to receive all that information at that point in time. So, oh man, and then I'm just getting this full on connection of how that could be frustrating for one or the other. And then they're
Both for
or
sure.
both,
Hmm.
right? And then you have this like cycle of potential miscommunication, right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So,
And just the resistance
mhm.
can be persistent in that.
Oh, good one. you I every time somebody says the word resistance, I think of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where those like big alien beings are like, "Your resistance is useless." I go straight
Oh,
there.
um, now let's see. So the difference though, let's see. I think it's important to also acknowledge that, assertiveness in our communication can
Mm,
still match with humility. They can still go hand in hand. Assertiveness is just learning how to speak your truth. It not being hurtful, right? You're not trying to be condescending or anything like that. That's a little more aggressive. But assertiveness is being able to speak your truth. And then the humility is knowing when to continue,
mhm.
meaning they're open to receive, versus holding on to that energy and waiting for that person to ask.
Yeah.
So
So,
not spreading yourself too thin, not pushing that energy on somebody else, but because I'm seeing the resistance happening on both sides. If you're pushing something, information onto somebody that's not ready to receive it, they're going to resist receiving, and you are going to feel that frustration that they don't value this information. But again, it's not to say it's not valuable. They're just not ready to receive it.
that makes me think of the word humble.
Mhm.
Which there's a difference between humility, I think, right? Between humility and humble and being humble.
They're similar.
They're similar
I
though.
mean, I think they can use they're like synonyms of each other.
Mm.
Synonyms.
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 I can't with man. So if we were to if we were to take humility, right? And all the different, because I mean, we're just using the words that we have to describe the
Mhm.
feelings and emotions behind it, right? So, like, if we were to take the word humility and we were to say that, it has multiple definitions depending on its use case, I guess, at that point, you have the humility of somebody like, uh God, I don't like to use the word privileged, but say somebody that's privileged, right? And they're feeling, see, this is where I get humble and humility maybe a little bit
Mm.
different in this
Okay.
case, right?
Uh-huh.
So say like somebody that's extremely wealthy and they go into an area that's like, they're trying to donate or something for an area that is not wealthy,
Mhm.
or to a person or residents or whatever. Um, is that them then showing themselves a sign of being humble, or is that showing humility? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, there can be like this whole different
Well, I think that's compassion, right?
compassion. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Freaking words.
So, what about humility and self-esteem? How do those
Mm,
work together? So, if self-esteem is how you feel about yourself,
mhm.
and humility is recognizing that everyone or no one is more or less valuable than you, then if you have high self-esteem, then wouldn't you also have high value of other people? Just thoughts.
I mean, that's something to ponder. If
I think it's, I mean, because you're
yeah,
recognizing that other people have, the valuable, the equally valuable qualities in them.
which
So
is
it's just, it's holding worth
mhm.
for humans and for yourself and
Ooh,
seeing that every life has worth.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
We're probably gonna make a reel out of that one. It's just so we're clear.
Yeah. So, what are some ways that we can work on being more humble, having more humility?
Well, I mean, and I wonder if this is where this came from, right? I had written down uh development of skills acquired during your transformation, deriving to that divine energy, right? And I'm wondering if that has that connection to what we're talking about, because when I wrote it down, what I was getting was more of like this connection to, if you understand your own self worth and your own divine energy and true power within, and by doing that, you realize that everyone else possesses the same thing,
Mhm.
and that we have that, all connection to one another in that way. More probably than that, but there's also that, right? And
Mhm.
it's just that everyone's on their own path as far as when and how they are to develop that within, right? And
Mhm.
so having some form of compassion, humility, being humble towards what it is that you're learning doesn't make you better than anyone else, right? It just means that your path and your choices and your decisions and where you're deriving to at that point in time is where it is. And that's okay if somebody else is not
Mhm.
there yet. And even just saying not there yet makes it sound like you're better than somebody else. So I'm like recognizing that, like, as I'm saying it out loud, right?
Mm. Mm.
It could just also be that that's not their choice in this lifetime.
Yeah. Or that they chose to come here to maybe do what we perceive as negative things for the other person to have soul growth. I just had a wild, potentially triggering, controversial thought.
I'm wondering if it's the same one I'm having right now. I'm not gonna lie, because I was gonna say it and I was like,
So I'm like on the fence about like saying it or not, but I'll go ahead and put it out there and
okay.
we'll go from there. So in the situation in Europe and farther
Okay.
east
Okay.
of
Okay.
Europe,
Got it. Got it.
the leader of that large country doing all those horrific things
Mm.
to their smaller brother country. Did that person come here to provide what we perceive as a very bad, terrible scenario, to provide a situation for millions across the world to have some sort of soul growth in response to this situation, whether that's increasing compassion and kindness and support and love? What if?
What
Just
if?
looking
Yeah.
at that from a different perspective.
Yeah. And that's what we do, right? We're
Mhm.
practicing looking at things from different perspectives. And and that's it is connected to what I
Again,
was
I want to
thinking.
say
Yeah.
I'm not agreeing with it.
Right.
Just okay.
Right. No. We're totally clear on that. Everyone, we're clear on that. Okay. So, you know, gosh. And this is another controversial one that I'm about to say. And it's a heavy hitter. I'm gonna call it the heavy hitter. What if, we'll go with that. What if you knew exactly the location, the family dynamic, the scenario in which you would be bringing in your essence to a physical being to have an experience? You knew that up front. You signed up
Mhm.
for it, all in,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Granted, you get here, you forget everything that you already knew, and
Mhm.
now you're experiencing those
What you signed up
experiences,
for.
what you signed up for,
Mhm.
right? Um, and what if, when doing this, you come from a place that doesn't have the types of contrast that calls something good or bad,
Mhm.
right? It's just an experience. I mean,
I I have this crazy image of a really fucked up amusement park.
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm letting the dog out in the backyard at night, and I look up at the stars, and I'm like, "What the fuck did I sign up for?" Like, did I know? Did I know? Shyra, are you fucking with me right now? Like, is this a thing? I'm not. We're all going through it. We're here. We're experiencing the contrast, like hands down. Some of it feels amazing. Some of it feels terrible and sad and depressing and all the things. And we could choose. We could choose to focus on all of that, you know? But we could also choose, you know what? I'm pretty sure Ambrosia made this during her channeling, but we could also choose to focus on the good, because there's so much more of that happening than there is of the bad. It's just not projected and put into our faces every day, or we're choosing not to see it.
Mhm. We get so focused on the negative, on what feels bad,
Mm-hmm.
that we forget to look at and appreciate and have gratitude for all the good, all the beauty, all the love. Mm.
So maybe part of the message that we were getting earlier before we hit record again, sorry guys, the maybe some of that message is to be a bit more humble and work with
Mhm.
our own humility to experience things in a little bit
Mhm.
different nature, right? Because one of the things that they
Mhm.
were showing us was this arrow. So just a line going through,
Mhm.
like a center line, like a minus bar or something like that. And then on one side was an arrow to the left and one side was an arrow to the right, right? So it was connected. Um, what do you call that? A two-way arrow? Anyway, so and in the center was a bar. And it was like showing me like an indicator of some sort, right? And then I saw that bar move to the right and I asked, what is that meaning? And they said polarity or contrast. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, so what's the bar symbolizing? The bar moving to the right. And they said positivity. And then I just got this like full on information of where are we going, right? In this contrast environment that we're in today.
Mhm.
And it's so hard because I even question it as soon as I see that, as soon as I'm experiencing that, I feel it, I understand it, but I'm questioning it because it's like we're experiencing so much crap at this time that like how do you see this as being so positive? But then there's all these things that are coming about that's happening that's allowing us to go into that positive direction, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Which is beautiful. So in itself, we're learning from the contrast.
Absolutely. So, connecting with that humility, I think one of one of the ways that we can start practicing that is practicing listening to others. Having open conversations with people that hold different perspectives and not being in a conversation with the goal of convincing the person of whatever information you're bringing to the table, but rather just hearing and understanding different perspectives and just being like, oh, that's really interesting. You don't have to align with them, you don't have to agree on everything. It's just sharing to educate, to be like, huh, I never thought of that before.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And then practicing mindfulness. So being in this now moment, finding that gratitude for what is positive, what is joyful, what is negative, and all the lessons and opportunities for growth that different situations bring.
Yeah.
And again, recognizing that these all have value and it's no more or less from one person to the other, their experiences. I just thought about how we um, will share sometimes with somebody like something that's going on, and that person almost need to one up the negative. Oh, well, this is so much worse for me because da 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 da. And that's not what it's about. Again, that's comparing. That's saying that your struggles are harder and more valued as a struggle than my struggle.
Yeah.
No,
That's
no.
hilarious. I catch myself doing that sometimes, but I'm coming from a place and we've talked about this. I'm like, and I'll actually preface it right from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm,
I can only compare to what I've experienced.
mhm,
So let me tell you about a time that I've had an experience and to just be try to see if we're on the same page, right? Of whatever we're talking about. So there's that aspect. But then
mhm.
there is also the side of that that can definitely be like the egoic, like, let me one up your negativity really quick, your
Yeah.
negative experience
Yeah.
really quick, right? Yeah, I've seen that. And you're just like, what are you doing?
We're not trying to have which sucks worse competition.
Right? Like what is that? Can we maybe just focus on one at the time, you know? Yeah.
So another way to practice humility is asking for help.
Mm. Yep. That has oh my god. I swear you it's almost like you just smacked me right across the face as soon as you said it. Like that has been a repeated theme over the last like 72 hours, I would say. Like
Mm,
just okay, I'm going to ask for help. And it's amazing. As soon as you even say it out loud and you allow it to happen, it just comes to you in the craziest ways. Like what you sent me yesterday. We're not going to talk about that right now. But
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden one of
Yeah,
our other
just
friends sent something very similar. And I was like, oh my God, it's just all coming in. Stop.
stop. So asking for help,
Yeah.
right? That's us practicing being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, recognizing that everybody has their own strengths and their limitations. So recognizing when we have a limitation and knowing when to ask for help.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you any worse. It doesn't make that other person any better. They just may be better at that one thing. But as an overall value, no, we're equal.
And yes, and still love
Mm-hmm,
that one.
mm-hmm,
That
mm-hmm,
that can be like, a really good opportunity to receive assistance if somebody
mm-hmm.
has a strength, not saying that it's better than yours or better, good or
It
bad,
just
whatever.
is.
It just is,
Mm-hmm,
right? But there's an opportunity to use that. Like,
mm-hmm.
if we want to just simplify this, like super simplify this, my husband is really good at cooking. I'm not. I don't see that as a bad thing because I can order food like a boss, right? So, but because he has that strength, I ask him for help all the time. It's like if I want to come up with something or make something, and I'm like, "Hey, can you help me?" You know, that's
Mm-hmm,
okay. Nothing wrong with
mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah,
That was a small example,
yeah.
and kudos to Stephen. So,
um, so humility. Anything else coming in about humility?
and the only thing I can think of that is kind of coming in is how like humility can be used in terms of Christianity, right?
I just keep thinking, oh man, I was so on there. Like I keep thinking about Jesus.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts on that. I'm not going to share them all right now. So, like I just I mean, I am thinking about that, right? Like what that means. I I don't really have like a whole lot of basis towards where I was getting that thought process, but it's just kind of like popped
So
in
I'm
there.
just imagining like Jesus, Buddha, Mother Teresa,
Mm,
not just limited to Christianity. Um, there are different people that we've been blessed to learn about and maybe even have on this earth when we've been here, um, to guide us and be a role model in leading that humble life.
yeah, a
It's
lot.
about love and respect. Again, recognizing our own value as well as everybody else's. And again, if we're all connected, if we all originated from the same source, from the same molecules, then we are all connected. Means we're all a part of the same. Means we're all valuable.
You darn tootin'.
Toot toot.
We're so from Texas, are y'all? So, um, and we definitely we have other tidbits of information on how we are all connected in some of our former episodes. So
Mhm,
speaking
mhm.
of being humble, uh, please, our growth is assisted by your growth and also assisted on getting our messages out there a little bit more to help those others do the same thing. Hit the like button, hit the follow button, bells and whistles. I was going to say tickles for
The
some
other,
reason.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's tickles.
really weird. I have my moments. So yeah, anyway.
Totally was going to say something else and it just went poof.
Yeah, I mean, tickle will do that. It will take whatever you're thinking about and it'll just shove it out the window. Silly.
I mean, our whole goal of this podcast is to support, to hopefully help people feel less alone, to support each other in our growth, to share what we're learning. We haven't learned it all. We've just hit the tip of the iceberg. But it's just all out of love. Yes, and love. So again, we can only, do that if we're able to get the message out. So again, any way that you can share what you're learning, what you find valuable, what is important in your life, what's helped you, please share that with others.
Yeah.
That's all.
And we also take information and questions. You can message us. You can contact us from our website, lovealwaysself.com. You can comment down below on any of the platforms that you're either listening to or watching this on YouTube. And ask us, what do you want us to talk about?
Yeah.
If you'd like me to channel anything and ask a question that way,
Ooh.
I'm opening it up. I'm opening the can of worms. So feel free to
challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Can't believe I said that out loud just now. So yeah. Comment down below. We'll put it into the list of questions that we have ourselves because we have a lot. So.
And then also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we'd love a review. So if you could take time to do that, that would be much appreciated.
Oh yeah, I forgot you could do that.
Yeah.
So be nice.
All righty, guys. We value you. Please value us. All right. We hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, week, whatever time it is, wherever you're at. We love you. We appreciate you. We just are so grateful for all the love that we've received from listeners. So thank you. We hope you guys love first,
love last,
and love always. Y'all have a beautiful day. Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shyra.
And until next time, remember to love first,
love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.